Happy offseason to those that celebrate. It is Hot Sheet, Baseball America's JJ Cooper and Geoff Pontes. I'm Scott Braun, and I say that, of course, it's bittersweet because the season was freaking awesome. But JJ, we get right into biz, and that includes top tens getting laid out.
New top tens. The Mets top 10 is already up. Yes, we are Monday of the offseason. Free agents are filing, and that means it's top 10 season at Baseball America. Starting with the Mets, but we will be rolling through all 15 NL teams over the next three and a half weeks. Flip right into AL after that. So by mid-December, we will have rolled out top 10 prospect list for the offseason for all 30 clubs. Then we'll come back in January, expand that out to 30 prospects in all 30 organizations. Then we'll come back on that and add the January 15th signees when they are from the international class, when they're added. And then we will roll into top 100 and it'll be here before we know it.
And I think it's always interesting when there are tweaks to the grading system. So let's get to that right now with the first move. Hey, for the old schoolers out there, they're like, wait, what? I love BA. What are you doing? What are you changing? JJ, tell everyone it's okay.
It is okay. So, if you go back 2011, 2012, basically when Mike Trout was still a prospect, we rolled out the BA grades and we were pretty excited about it at the time. I remember it was a pretty big deal. Like that we rolled out that we wanted to put a number on every player in the top 30s, their role grade, what we expected their role to be. You know, an 80 is Shohei Ohtani is an 80. An 80 on the 20-80 scale is a player who is a surefire Hall of Famer, one of the best players in the game. 70s are guys who could be Hall of Famers as well. So like if Shohei Ohtani, if the just retired Clayton Kershaw was an 80, then you would say I would say the Corey Seagers of the world are 70s, right? Like players who can be MVPs even in their best seasons, but maybe aren't in that utter inner circle of best player in the game kind of conversation. And that goes all the way down, 60, 50, 40. And we do have 30s, 35s in the book. We don't really write up a whole lot of 20s because those are in the minors, but they're not really prospects. But so we've done that for a long time, but then we've had a risk component to it as well. Because obviously, when you talk about some players, you say this player could be, we're talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., let's just say through his career. There was a point where we put, I think, a 75 on Vlad Jr., where we're saying he's going to be a 70, maybe he's even going to be an 80s, and that kind of right in between line. But that's when he was after he hit 380 in AA. Now, but when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was coming to the U.S., he was already considered an exceptional hitter for his age and all this, but he just had a lot more risk. So we have a risk component to that as well, and we've had that since 2012. But we realized that there was a little disconnect here, right? Because we have always used high risk as kind of the default setting for the risk. And there's a logic to that because prospects are risky. And so we were trying to emphasize the fact that even players who have good years in AA and have lots of tools and all are often quite risky, that they're going to hit their ceiling, that they're going to have a chance to reach their realistic role that we see for them in the big leagues. But we've had, times over the years where people kind of get confused about that. So we've decided to reset this. And what we're doing now is saying that, okay, our baseline is going to be average risk. Now, all these prospects, again, are risky, but average risk means that you are no riskier than the average prospect. Now, it's not the average minor league, but the average prospect, the player who we think has a big league future. And then we go from there. So we have mild, which is below that. Mild is a player who's knocking on the door and is really ready to jump into the big leagues, and they have less risk factors than the average prospect. We have high risk, and then we have extreme risk. And extreme risk is for players like the players who signed last year and played in the DSL, or a player who has a massive flaw, like a big strikeout rate, or a pitcher who throws 89, or but is really good otherwise. There's always going to be a giant factor here that says, okay, this is why this player is much riskier than others. It's all kind of the goal of all of this is to try to best summarize and best line up players so that our readers our listeners, our viewers can all understand how these players compare to each other, so that if you see a 50 mild in one system, we're saying that that player is equivalent rank-wise to a 50 mild in another system, even if one player ranks number 5 and one player ranks 15th in a system. They're still kind of similar type players.
Yeah, and I think, it just gives us more variance within all of these different tiers. I think going back and reading handbooks over the last, 10 years or so, even prior to my time here at BA, when I was just a consumer as a prospect file, whatever you want to say. I always felt like the high tiers in particular were probably a little bit too big. I think by adding that additional risk tier, it allows those guys to break up a little bit, because there is sort of, a corresponding deduction with each one of these risk tiers against the overall BA grade. And this is a system too that I think is not just going to be for the handbook. It's not just going to be rolled out here with the top 10s. It's going to be consistent right on through to the amateur rankings that we put out and the scouting reports that we do for the draft. So I think just having that consistency and being able to place players very easily, all on the same scale, is super valuable. And, just realizing that, things have even changed since this scale was, redone, over a decade ago, in terms of risk factors, guys getting into pro ball, how easy it is to get to the MLB, et cetera.
So let me explain it that. And I'm gonna -2 there. The MLB. I'm giving you 2- for that. It's MLB. It's not the MLB. But to give an example here, Jonah Tong, who we just ranked in the Mets. Jonah Tong, we have ranked as a 55 average. A 55 means that we're projecting him as a number 3 starter in the big league, someone who will start playoff games. I think that's a good way nowadays to kind of think of a number 3 starter. But a number 3 starter who will start playoff games, and we have him with average risk, right? Now, if you really like Jonah Tong, thought he was a number 2 starter, could maybe even argue he's a 60. But I think if you argue a 60, I think you would also say that he's high risk to be a 60, because he doesn't really spin a breaking ball all that consistently. It's a fastball. It's a right-handed fastball changeup approach from a really weird kind of arm angle and all. There's a little bit more risk there, maybe, if you think you want to be even a little bit higher ceiling. Brandon Sproat, also a Met. We have him as a 50 mild. Now, again, with Sproat, these are kind of sliding scales that work together. If you think that Sproat's a number 3 starter, maybe he is a 55. I think the risk would go up. We're saying that we're projecting him more as a number 4 starter. And in doing so, but he's a pretty mild risk. He did reach the majors last year. He has a lot of AAA experience. There's not a whole lot standing in his way of being a number 4 starter, or that also could end up being a very high leverage reliever, also possibly Sproat. That's an example of you have 2 guys who are kind of right there together, and they have different roles and different risks, but the 2 kind of do work side to side. Like, if we think that a player is going to really be exceptional, that probably carries a little bit higher risk with it, because it's hard to be one of the best players in the game. But you can pull them a little lower if we think that maybe they're not going to be that. They're going to be more of a good player. But often that risk will kind of go with that as well, because there's a little less risk. These are things that they're already showing that they can do.
That is perfectly explained. If people need more information, of course, you know where to go, baseballamerica.com, for more info on what we're talking about. And coming up next, Max Anderson will join us from the Arizona Fall League, having a great AFL. FT fam, if you want more information about Superpower, I have real-life customer Eric Kratz with us right now to explain how you're basically getting the pro experience available for everyone.
$199 is the price, and that's a discount from Superpower. That's a discount from everywhere. You get so much information from your lab test results. Christmas is coming up here soon. You can give this gift to somebody else. Health is the gift that keeps on giving.
Your blueprint activated with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce that price to what Kratz is talking about, just $199, but for a limited time, FT fam gets an additional $20 off with code TAKE20. Head to superpower.com and use code TAKE20 at checkout for $20 off your membership. After you sign up, they're going to ask you how you heard about them, and make sure you mention FT to support the show. Stop only reacting to health problems and start proactively improving your health based on real personalized data with Superpower.
thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the AFL season. And just want to kind of ask you with that. Like, I know that everyone talks about they don't look at stats and all, but when you're this far into a season and you're hitting right at 500, when they flash the stats up there on the screen, on the big board, do you have to have a little bit of a peek and go, okay, things are going pretty well if that first number on my batting average starts with a 4?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool to see that. As in baseball, you try not as much to see all that. And actually, being here and them not, they don't show too much on the scoreboard, but no, it's pretty awesome. And I'm just happy to be able to be doing so good, and it's been working out pretty good for me. So.
And Max, you're getting to play alongside another one of the Tigers' top prospects, and Kevin McGonigal. How has the experience been out there with him as a teammate? I think you might have played with him very shortly this year, but moved up to AAA. So, just working alongside that guy every day, sort of, what kind of scouting report can you give us?
Yeah. I mean, me and Kev, we came into the Tigers together in 2023. So I mean, he's been nothing but awesome. To be able to hang out with him and kind of just grow up as a pro baseball player together. Um, it really was pretty cool. I mean, and now he's just been able to show kind of on a bigger stage like who he really is and how good he really is. And I mean, I've seen it for every year I've known him, so it's nothing new to all of us. So it's awesome. He works hard. Great guy. I don't think I've met anybody that's not liked him. So he's a great guy to be around. Great person.
But well, Max, Kevin's obviously a great hitter, but also congrats. You kind of coming out of Nebraska. Everyone always talked about the bat. It did feel like looking from afar that you kind of unlocked another level this year. From your perspective, did it feel like everything just kind of rolled a little better this year, or kind of take us through your regular season, what you felt like you're kind of how you're better now than you were coming into 2025?
Yeah. I mean, I think just kind of continue what I was doing. I mean, I've never been a guy to really change.
We might have to reset you. You're getting that, right, JJ?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit there too.
We got a
Sorry,
little
you got a little
funkiness
choppy
with
there.
the phone, Max. We might have to just click in and out real quick. We were good. We were golden. All right, we'll get Max back in one moment. He's going to flip
Let me
back
just kind of
on.
set the stage for everybody then while we're waiting for Max to come back. So coming out of Nebraska, this is part of the Tigers approach. The Tigers kind of, I feel like, really kind of reworked their approach scouting and player acquisition wise, the minor league level, where they kind of emphasized there was a stretch there where it's like, okay, power, and some questions on the hit tool. I think they reshaped. We're back with Max. So sorry, you were talking about like your seat, like like big picture, like how do you feel like? I'll just ask it this way: big picture, how do you feel like you're better now as a pro than you were when you were coming into pro ball?
Yeah, I think just kind of the fact of getting so many at bats, like that first season, you're kind of just trying to.
Max, we were good, but we're getting a little mic funkiness right now with the phone. Well, we might have to try it back, bud. Let's see.
Try one more time, Max.
I think we're.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. All right.
So I was just going to say that Max was drafted. Max Anderson, he was one of this new approach, kind of better bat to ball skills, and really did kind of have a step forward season this year. Bummed that we're not going to be able to ask him about this because really, like one of the questions always has been with Max is where does he fit defensively? I will say, getting ready, working on the Tigers top 10 list. I would say that Max really kind of has, I feel like, made some strides defensively at second. That's not kind of his biggest strength, I would say, is defense, but at the same time, it has really kind of taken a step forward. And then he's also playing third base in the AFL. I saw John Erkla was asking that, what's the biggest challenge about playing third? I would be also interested in kind of like, I think that adding some versatility, is kind of something that's interesting that Max has done.
Gonna
Hey,
try
Max.
one more time.
One more time. Hopefully this is working now.
We can get a test 1, 2,
Oh,
3
boy.
before.
Hey.
Okay. Hey,
that
we're
sounded
good. We're good. All right.
So, okay, I'm going to ask you a different question now because you kind of answered that a little bit. Defensively, you're working some at third out there, obviously, in the AFL. Like, what's the difference between second and third? And how does it feel like? John Erklow, also one of our viewers, wanted to ask this. What are the biggest challenges that you have playing third base?
Sorry, my mic is something's going crazy. You guys said again.
Yeah, all right. Sorry about this, Max. Yeah, we're struggling. Live TV. Trying to get in a good spot, but don't want to mess you up too much here. So, all right, we're gonna thank you, Max. Sorry about this. We'll definitely work on another time to get Max back. So apologize to Max and to everyone there behind the scenes, but phone service got a little whack.
I'll put the promo in, which is Max was also on Tiger territory this week. So if you have questions, he also is there too. I'm watching that because, again, I'm working on Tiger's top 10 right now.
There you go. Okay. So anyway, we'll have a little more time to go in our next segment here. So let's take a quick break, and then we will do some World Series thoughts coming up. Hey, we've told you about Huel's new Daily Greens ready-to-drink can, but also we do not want to forget about the OG.
Your favorite. You love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
I do.
You and Kratz love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
That's
So
my favorite
good.
one. Mm-hmm.
It's so
Want
good.
the breakdown?
The vanilla, also good. But when they sent me the chocolate peanut butter, it's like a dessert. But it's not.
35 grams of protein, no added sugar, gluten-free for your boy, under $5 per meal, because it's
a meal replacement.
A meal in a drink. 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. Use that code, fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT. Let's hit the final sprint. And JJ, let's talk about the World Series, man. That was such a blast. A lot of coverage, just history, great competition, epic storylines. Your thoughts and how we can spin it into a show like ours.
So I'll start with, I am going to have a big picture thought at first, which is that I just could not help. I was talking to one of my daughters about the World Series, which is not a statement that I've pretty much ever made. That I think that there are a lot of baseball fans who were made over the last month. And that's a real positive for baseball. If you're someone like us, if you're watching this show, you love baseball. I feel like that this was a World Series, but also a postseason that really did build another generation of baseball fans. The baseball was extremely compelling. The pace, let's just say, I've talked to multiple people who were former baseball fans who are out, and they will say the pitch clock has brought them back because the game does not drag like it used to. The game now is much faster. We played an 18-inning game that didn't feel like a slog, and that's kind of hard to say in a lot of ways. So I do think that there's a lot to be said there. But at the same time, I know that there are a lot of people who are going to say the Dodgers winning is the death of baseball. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. If that was the case, we would not have baseball nowadays. Has anyone checked how much the Yankees won over the last, over like a 60, 70-year span? You go back from the 20s basically through the 60s, and it was Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. They had, yes, it is. I'm not going to tell you that baseball is a 100% fair game. None of these sports are 100% fair games. But at the same time, I do think that the Blue Jays showing that they could take them to absolutely every, there's probably 15 different plays you could point to and say one change here, there could have absolutely changed who won that World Series. Geoff, I just look at it and say, it was compelling in every simple possible way. And I do think it also mentored a lot of baseball fans and Blue Jays fans out there.
Yeah, and I think we got to see two really good fan bases that are very plugged in at the moment. I think it definitely sparked a fire with the Blue Jays fan base for sure, where, there hasn't been a ton of success over the last 30 years, really. After kind of being the dominant team that I hated when I was a little boy, now the Blue Jays have, turned into, sort of like an also ran, and I think are often forgotten within this division. It was great to see for them. It was also great to see two teams, and I'll take the other side of it, that invest in their product, that are willing to pay their star players, that are willing to go out into free agency and battle. And these two teams have battled in consecutive off seasons for top tier free agents, with the Dodgers kind of winning out. Obviously, the Sasaki situation was a little unusual. The Blue Jays were in on Soto. They go and they pay Vlad Guerrero Jr. We see an all-time performance from Vlad Guerrero Jr. We see, Ernie Clement of all guys, kind of an unsung hero, beat, the hits record for an entire playoff. We saw a more 7-game playoff series in this playoff this year than we had seen ever before. And then you just take away from it that it was like we saw Shohei Ohtani in Game 7 against future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer. We're seeing Hall of Famers all around the field. We're seeing an all-time performance from Yamamoto. And I think, even beyond all the star power, all the Hall of Famers, you can even fold in sort of the international feel, setting the stage for a big WBC this offseason. I think it's really exciting spot that we're in with baseball right now versus, when I came to the fold with BA, 4 years ago. The game is very healthy, and I think it's in a good spot. And we have some great competitive teams. A lot of the rule changes and things that have changed within the marketplace for free agency, et cetera, all that sort of stuff, I think has been good. And I think the trade deadline and the expanded playoffs kind of go hand in hand. We're seeing a lot more teams investing. We're seeing a lot more teams in it. It makes our trade deadline more interesting. It makes our playoffs more interesting as well.
A couple of things that also do stand out to me on the field. We talk a lot about like run prevention, defense, the value of defense, and then the value of hitting and offense, right? I felt like that these teams both, I know the Dodgers are kind of the all of the above team, but you saw what Miguel Rojas did and the value of defense and that play that I can't believe that many people, when he kind of fielded that ball on the play at the plate, that was going to be an out at home, or seeing Andy Pages come in and then immediately make a catch. But then you look also at the Blue Jays, and I feel like the Blue Jays were a really good blend of, when we talk about Ernie Clement had a postseason, a World Series to remember. He's really kind of a defense-first player, I would say, but his defensive versatility is very valuable. Nathan Lucas, bat-to-ball defense value. But then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Freddie Freeman both showing the value of defense at first base. Seeing Will Smith somehow catch every inning of every World Series game after a postseason to remember from a standpoint of survival from his standpoint. Alejandro Kirk being, I think we saw the value of all-around catchers who can provide offensive impact. Will Smith had 2 game-winning home runs in the World Series. Kirk is one of the best hitters on the Blue Jays lineup, but also providing defense as well. I think that there are some things here that can be gleaned for other teams, which one of them is I've heard multiple teams tell me, people tell me run prevention is cheaper, is less expensive than producing runs. And I think there's some truth to that. But I do think that you saw from both of these teams the value of how, if you have good defense combined with some really just ferocious middle of the order sluggers, that combo pack really does stand out, probably more than going all defense or going all slugger at the same time. Because we've had teams do that, and then the defense seems to come back to bite them come postseason.
Let's bring up a comment. John said it was a great series. October, November was incredible in general. Game 5 of Tigers Mariners, Game 7 of Mariners Jays, World Series Game 7. The Dodgers weren't a steamroller. They just outlasted the Jays. Great stuff. That's very true. When you looked at the last round, JJ, you were like, oh, Dodgers seem like they're in a different weight class from the Brewers as far as a postseason team. Postseason team is not the same as a regular season team. Depth is tested in the regular season, not the same way in the postseason. Circle of trust changes, the way you can use your starters, etc. Right? So those teams did not look evenly matched in the NLCS. If we had seen that in the World Series, it would have been a less entertaining product, and people would have been like, oh, the Dodgers were just so much better than everyone else. That was not the case.
No. And that was not the case, even though the Blue Jays were playing with Bo Bichette on one leg, running at Martin Maldonado's speeds, as I like to point it out. And then we also had George Springer missing multiple games with an oblique injury that probably really did still impact him the rest of the postseason. Again, it didn't work out, but that's also with Anthony Santander, who was one of the Blue Jays' key free agent acquisitions this year, also missing the postseason, missing much of the postseason with injury. Although, again, in that case, I think that might have been a little bit of addition by subtraction considering how he was playing. But like you look at this and say the Blue Jays, this is not the case where this was the Dodgers overwhelming and overmatched team. Geoff, I look at it and say, like, I felt like the Blue Jays probably overall may have slightly outplayed the Dodgers in that series. And then it just was sequenced a little better. Just but most of the key plays in this World Series seemed to go the Dodgers' way one after another in very key moments that you almost could say were unexpected at the time, like the play at the plate or like the catch in center field and many other ones like that.
Yeah, I mean, even the play by Justin Dean to not play that ball that got, wedged underneath the padding of the wall. That ball breaks another inch and hits and ricochets off that and shoots back into center field. It might be a really funky bounce. And, we're seeing a guy, potentially on third or maybe even scoring on it inside the Parker. Like, there were so many small, it's a game of inches kind of thing. We saw that consistently. I think my takeaway too was you sort of look at the Dodgers starting pitching and, how much they've invested in this starting pitching group. When they needed it, those guys came through, and ultimately, just the amount of quality arms that they had allowed them to really never have to lean too heavy onto the bullpen. The times that they did, it got a little scary. But, obviously having a guy like Yamamoto going, a day after he pitches in game 6 and wins a game, comes back out and, gets vital outs for you. Very rare to obviously have guys of that magnitude. And I think, as good as the Blue Jays stars were, as good as their starting pitching was in this series, the Dodgers stars just, when the moment came to be, just were a little bit bigger, whether that was, Freddie Freeman's home run and, the 18-inning affair or some of the other games.
I just want to along those lines, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we do not know, as we said, there are multiple players who are slam dunk Hall of Famers who are in this game. Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer. I would say you could say Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. I'd say that you could say Shohei Ohtani right now. If Shohei Ohtani retired tomorrow, which he won't, thankfully, but if he did, I think he's already a Hall of Famer. I would say that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on the right track, is what we'd say. But if he does end up making it to the Hall of Fame one day, I think you could point to this postseason as one of the key moments in it, because it was on the biggest stage, he had a postseason to remember. It showed you everything there to love about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Really good defense at first base, amazing at bat after amazing at bat. That double that he hit in game 7, getting your hands in and pulling that ball just shows a level of adaptability, swing adjustability, and bat speed that you just don't see very often. There is a reason he was an 80 hitter in our 80 hit grade when he was in the minors for us. We don't hand that out very often. Feel very good about that one. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a truly top of the scale hitter, and he shows that year after year. And we saw that right there in the postseason.
That one stood out for me because that was a big part of my prospect fandom whenever that was at this point, 8 years ago, whatever it was, right? When I'm watching clips, highlights of Vlad Jr., we all know the name already based on his dad. And we're like, how good can he be? The 80 grade hit tool, the articles about that, everything that BA's coverage brought to the mix on Vladdy playing out in the big leagues is really cool and makes it feel like, as a fan like me, following someone like that and then seeing it play out, it makes me a smarter broadcaster, analyst, whatever. And it makes a lot of Blue Jays fans feel really good when they were hyping him up and it's actually playing out. There are plenty of prospects that don't work out or don't live up to a certain tool. Vlad has completely lived up to that. So I agree. I think that is so cool that he gets a rare 80 and then he is displaying that, especially in the postseason, even taking it to another level. Okay, last layer here. I'll bring up a JJ Cooper tweet. Yes, MLB season is over. Winter ball, thankfully, is already fully up and running. The only days without pro baseball over the rest of this year, 2025, that JJ found were December 1, December 8, December 24, and December 31. Also, don't forget, there'll be a little bit of downtime in January, February, except I think Australian baseball is going on.
I was going to say Australia gets really close to. I think that you'll have pitchers and catchers reporting. So you may not have games, but you'll be right in that overlap there. And by the way, with that, at that point, we will definitely have junior college baseball. Then we'll have Division I college baseball. That's what I love about baseball. As someone who probably lives and breathes baseball to an unhealthy level in some ways, baseball is truly a year-round sport in a lot of ways. And there are very few days in the entire year where you do not have games of some significance, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you that I love Lidom. I love the Mexican Pacific League and all that, but I'm not going to tell you the same thing as World Series, but it does kind of help us get there. You can pay attention to that. We'll turn around. We will be into college baseball. Then we'll be into spring training. By the way, we will be into, as Geoff noted, World Baseball Classic, which I think is even more poised to be massive. We saw it last WBC, but I think that there's a little bit more even excitement now. I think we're going to see better, I think we're going to see fewer players opting out because we've seen the environments and how awesome it is. More players every year seemingly wanting to play. More players even playing also. We saw Jack Caglione says he's going to play for Team Italy. Players like that kind of help build some of these other teams out. It's all going to be awesome to pay attention to.
The game is thriving right now. So thank you so much for checking out this edition of Baseball America Hot Sheet. Don't worry, we're here for you. We're back every week. The Mets top 10 is already up, baseballamerica.com. The Marlins top 10 is up next on Tuesday, and you can check out more info, full schedule, the whole deal. We'll talk about some of those top 10s throughout the next few episodes as well. See you next Monday.